Genmaicha is a popular Japanese green tea made by combining tea leaves with roasted rice. Some Genmaicha is also made with matcha powder added into it. This tea is called Matcha-iri Genmaicha, and it can take on a completely different flavor. In this video, we're going to be comparing regular Genmaicha with a Matcha-iri Genmaicha to see how the flavors are different. As you'll see later in the video, there's actually a big difference between these two teas. So first, let's take a look at the leaves. On the left, I have the Gyokuro Genmaicha, currently the most popular Genmaicha at neoteas.com. It's made by combining shaded tea leaves with toasted rice. You'll notice that these leaves are much darker than a typical Genmaicha tea. And this is because during the shading process, the tea produces more chlorophyll to compensate for the lack of sunlight, and this produces darker leaves. The shading process also serves another purpose, which we'll cover later on in the video. But let's compare it to the other Genmaicha. You can clearly see the difference with these leaves. While there isn't a ton of matcha powder added to this tea, you can still notice it, particularly as it forms a light dusting around the grains of rice. But let's go ahead and brew these teas up. I'm going to be using 5 grams of leaves, and while I would normally use a kyusu teapot to prepare these teas, I'll use a strainer to keep the experiment consistent. The reason why a teapot is better is because it will give the leaves more space to expand and release their flavor into the water, which will lead to a stronger taste. I'll be using 75 degrees Celsius or 170 degrees Fahrenheit for each of these teas and a brewing time of 1 minute. After the teas are done brewing, you'll already notice a huge difference. The Matcha Genmaicha has this cloudy, dark green color which is formed as the matcha powder is released into the water. The Gyokuro Genmaicha, on the other hand, has a much more transparent, light yellow color to it. When we compare the flavors of the two teas, you'll notice that the Matcha Genmaicha has a much bolder, full-bodied flavor. Because of the addition of the matcha powder, you're drinking more of the tea leaf when you sip this tea. This also leads to a light seaweed or steamed vegetable flavor profile. Another observation is that the flavor of the toasted rice is subdued. This toasted rice normally gives the Genmaicha this warm, slightly nutty taste profile, but you really can't notice it as much because of the matcha. The Gyokuro Genmaicha, on the other hand, is a bit more mild. It has a nice sweet flavor and a more pronounced warm cereal flavor from the toasted rice. As we mentioned before, shading the tea plant can have a profound effect on the color of the leaves, but it can also make the flavor smoother and sweeter. This is why teas like Gyokuro are shaded for such a long time in order to reduce the bitterness and accentuate the sweetness of the leaf. If you're looking for a classic Genmaicha flavor with a nice sweetness and a warm, nutty taste profile, you should go for the Gyokuro Genmaicha. If you want something a little more bold and full-bodied, but you still want some of that toasted rice flavor, the Matcha Genmaicha Shizuoka is the perfect tea for you. I hope you found this tasting helpful when it comes to picking out a Genmaicha tea. Whatever you decide to choose, I'm sure you'll end up loving it. Genmaicha is a tea most people tend to like the first time they try it. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you next time.